Did you know? Because the moon's gravity is lower than the Earth's, if you put a clock on the moon and on the Earth, their time will actually be a little different. In contrast, the time on the moon is about 56 microseconds faster than the Earth every day. Although this is only a small time difference, if you work on the moon for a whole day, the cumulative error may be about 56 miles. This is a big trouble for moon workers. In order to solve this problem, NASA and the United States jointly formulated a global unified lunar time standard plan called Coordinated Lunar Time, with 43 countries around the world this year. As far as I know, the main purpose of this plan is to establish a unified time standard for future lunar missions, so that when countries conduct scientific research and exploration on the moon, the time alignment will be more convenient and accurate. However, after NASA proposed this plan, some professionals claim that on the surface this plan is for global cooperation. In fact, NASA is taking this opportunity to compete for the right to formulate rules for lunar development, especially in the competition with China. If the United States dominates the formulation of lunar time standards, China's future lunar exploration and development may be restricted and constrained by the United States. So why does NASA want to control China's development through Coordinated Lunar Time? Will China's future lunar landing plan be affected by this? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. Looking back at history, the United States leadership in the field of space was not smooth sailing from the beginning. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union had a clear advantage in the space race. For example, the first successful launch of an artificial satellite and the first manned space flight were both completed by the Soviet Union. However, the successful landing of Apollo 11 on the moon in 1969 completely changed this situation. The United States became the first country to send humans to the moon. This was not only a great victory in science and technology, but also a major political victory and became a trump card for the United States in the global space competition. Since then, the United States has been the undisputed leader in the field of the moon. However, later, with the disintegration of the Soviet Union, the United States reduced its exploration of the moon in the following decades. During this time, China, a country that was ignored, is gradually rising and becoming the new hegemon of lunar exploration in the new era. Since 2004, China has launched a series of lunar exploration projects. Although it has faced a lot of international sanctions during the period, this has not stopped China's pace in lunar exploration. From Chang'e 1 to Chang'e 6, China has made breakthroughs in the field of lunar exploration, successfully completing important tasks such as orbiting the moon, soft landing on the moon, soft landing on the back of the moon, and returning samples from the moon. In 2007, China's Chang'e 1 was successfully launched, acquiring the first image of the moon's surface on the moon and completing the collection of full moon image data. Then, Chang'e 2 took the highest resolution full moon image in the world at that time. Subsequently, Chang'e 3 successfully achieved a soft landing on the moon's surface, and Chang'e 4 successfully landed on the back of the moon for the first time in human history. Chang'e 5 successfully completed the task of taking samples from the front of the moon and bringing them back to Earth. The most eye-catching is the plan of Chang'e 6, which landed on the back of the moon this year and collected soil samples, which gave China a dominant position in the field of lunar exploration. It is worth noting that with the completion of the Chang'e 6 mission, the soil samples on the back of the moon it brought back aroused great interest in the United States. The director of NASA even publicly asked China to share these samples so that both sides could conduct joint research. However, China rejected this request on the grounds of the Wolf Treaty, formulated by the United States in 1979. This treaty clearly restricts cooperation between China and the United States in the field of space, especially prohibiting NASA from conducting any form of joint scientific research with China. Therefore, facing the rules it has set, the United States can only accept the reality that it cannot obtain these lunar soil samples. Even more amazing is that shortly after the completion of the Chang'e 6 mission, China announced a new lunar exploration plan, which clearly proposed to provide the necessary infrastructure support for manned lunar landing. And it is expected to achieve manned lunar landing before 2030. This news also made the United States feel tremendous competitive pressure, and then join some countries with strong scientific and technological strength to try to limit China's new round of lunar exploration. What's going on? What did NASA do? In 2020, in response to the rapid rise of China's space technology, the United States joined hands with Australia, Japan, and other 7 countries to sign the Artemis Accords, with the goal of helping the United States return to the moon and restore its leadership in lunar exploration. However, in the past 4 years, this agreement has not been formally implemented, while China has made a sharp contrast this year through the Chang'e 6 lunar landing. To this end, the United States invited 43 countries to join the Artemis program and set a target of returning to the moon by 2026. In addition, the United States also proposed the establishment of a global unified time standard called Coordinated Lunar Time, on the grounds of the time difference between the Earth and the Moon. The purpose of this standard is said to be to enable future lunar probes of various countries to work better together and improve scientific research efficiency. It is worth noting that the coordination is mainly aimed at the 43 countries that signed the Artemis Accords, while China and Russia were excluded. In this regard, some experts believe that the so-called time plan of the United States is ostensibly to facilitate the coordination of lunar scientific research missions. But in reality, it is to consolidate its dominant position in space rules by establishing time standards. On Earth, the United States regards itself as an international policeman, and now it seems to be preparing to extend this control to the moon, trying to take the lead in establishing order rules on the moon dominated by itself. We all know that mastering time is equivalent to mastering rhythm, and mastering rules means mastering the initiative. Therefore, once the United States successfully formulates and implements the Coordinated Lunar Time plan, China's future lunar exploration may face various restrictions and constraints. Of course, if the United States' formulation agreement is established, then the second and third agreements will definitely be established. So, can the United States succeed in formulating rules on the moon? As far as I know, whether the Unified Lunar Time Standard will be used as a tool to compete for resources and technological advantages is a matter of great concern. Therefore, the rules proposed by the United States have not yet been agreed to by all 43 countries that have signed the Artemis Accords. Everyone should know that the moon is not only rich in titanium, iron, and rare earth resources, but also has a very precious chemical element, helium-3, which is extremely rare on Earth and is not even widely used in the periodic table of chemical elements. More importantly, helium-3 can replace traditional deuterium-tritium fusion and become a clean energy source that does not produce any radiation. Therefore, many countries are eager to obtain the right to develop helium-3. However, if the United States becomes the maker of lunar rules, even those countries that cooperate with it may not be able to share these resources fairly. This is because the interests of various countries in lunar exploration are not completely consistent. How to reach a consensus in the international community and achieve fair distribution of resources will be a huge challenge. In addition, facing the attitudes of China, Russia, and other countries, the U.S. plan to control the rhythm and standards of future lunar exploration is doomed to be not smooth sailing. In fact, China has begun to study the construction of lunar time standards and navigation systems many years ago. In 2023, an article entitled Near-Moon Space Constellation Orbit Design Method was published in the journal China Space Science and Technology, which detailed the construction plan of China's future lunar navigation system. Similar to China's Beidou satellite system, this lunar navigation system will play a key role between the Earth and the Moon orbit, providing navigation, positioning, and timing services. According to China's plan, The deployment of at least 21 satellites will be completed in 3 stages in the future to build a navigation system covering the entire moon to ensure high-precision navigation and time information on the moon. Once this system is successfully implemented, scientific research and exploration work can be carried out directly on the moon at will, and there is no need for the coordinated lunar time plan proposed by the United States. Although the United States is currently the only country that has successfully sent humans to the moon, it does not mean that it will continue to lead in the future space race. Although the United States has united 43 countries and announced plans to return to the moon in 2026 from the current situation, it may not be easy to achieve this grand goal. In contrast, the lunar programs of China and Russia are no longer limited to exploration, but are aimed at the development of lunar resources and further deep space exploration. The goal of the Sino-Russian International Lunar Research Station is to complete construction by 2035, by which time it will provide a shared platform for scientists around the world to conduct scientific research on the moon. According to scientists' predictions, if the mining of lunar resources can be successfully launched, gifts from the moon will be received every month. The accumulated lunar mineral resources this year will reach about 2 tons, and the economic benefits may exceed $50 billion. At present, this cooperation between China and Russia is seen as a direct response to the U.S. Artemis project. So, do you think the United States will implement the coordinated lunar time plan after its successful moon landing? To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.